The Silent Visitor. Chapter 1. The Familiar Streets. The car's tires crunched over the gravel driveway, kicking up small clouds of dust as it came to a stop before my childhood home. I stepped out into the warm evening air, taking in the familiar scent of blooming flowers and fresh cut grass. It was a comforting aroma that immediately calmed my racing heart after a tumultuous year at college. After finally graduating, I had returned to this small town with high hopes for peace and quiet, a chance to recharge before diving into my future. My parents stood on the porch, smiling warmly as they greeted me. "Welcome home, Alex," they chimed in unison. As we exchanged hugs, I couldn't help but notice the faint flicker of worry behind their eyes. It was understandable. After all, it had been a while since our family was whole again. My parents ushered me inside and helped carry my suitcases up to the guest room, where memories of my childhood resided. The house felt just as I left it, a blend of nostalgia and comfort mixed with a hint of mothballs and forgotten times. As we settled into dinner, their conversation drifted towards local news. Friends who had moved away, family feuds that still lingered, and the recent string of burglaries plaguing our quiet neighborhood. They assured me nothing much had changed, aside from me. As night approached, I retreated to my room with a warm cup of tea, eager for solitude. The creaking floorboards sounded different now. They groaned as if complaining about years of neglect. As I settled under the patchwork quilt, I couldn't shake off an inexplicable feeling of being watched. Every sound seemed amplified. Twigs snapping outside, leaves rustling, a distant dog barking far away. Shadows cast by the moonlight seemed to twist and dance on my walls. My mind began to wander back to college stress. It was just residual tension. I reassured myself. I yawned and closed my eyes, slipping into sleep almost instantly. But in the dead of night, a chilling presence awakened me. It wasn't the wind or imagination playing tricks. Someone was standing at my door. My heart raced as I slowly turned towards it. Sitting on the edge of the bed were two piercing brown eyes, staring back through tinted glasses and an unfamiliar face. The stranger's smile widened, showcasing small white teeth as he whispered in a voice that sent icy tendrils down my spine. "Welcome home." He vanished before I could process his words, leaving behind no trace of his presence, but the unmistakable scent of old books and something stale. A cold sweat prickled at my neck as sleep's grip on me loosened. Was it merely exhaustion playing tricks? I convinced myself. Yet a lingering sense of unease persisted. The next morning, we found a cryptic note pinned to our front door. A small piece of paper with a single word scrawled in bold letters. "Wait." In the kitchen, Mom and Dad exchanged nervous glances. I brushed it off as kids' mischief from my high school days. We moved through the day with forced cheerfulness. That evening, I set up my books by the fireplace, the same spot where we'd shared stories and laughter during late nights years ago. As I read, a gust of wind swept through the open window, rustling papers. The book slipped from my hands as it fell into darkness beyond the hearth. In that moment, every fear I thought long buried stirred within me. A shiver ran down my spine. Chapter 2. The Unwanted Visitor. Days passed with each incident more unnerving than the last. Misplaced belongings, eerie whispers at night, and an unsettling feeling of being watched when alone in my room. At first, I attributed it to my imagination or playful pranks from old friends visiting without warning. However, their visits never materialized. The constant unease began eating away at me. My once reliable perception now questioned every shadowy movement. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, an old friend. "Come by tomorrow afternoon." As I left for her place, the house seemed to hum in protest, a strange echo that made me quicken my step. Once there, she spoke of nothing out of the ordinary except her own recent unease, the sense someone followed her. I dismissed it as paranoia. Perhaps we both needed solace. On my walk home, a gust blew past, carrying an unmistakable whiff, old books and something stale. The stranger's scent. The next night, shadows crawled across my room in an unnatural way. Darkness seemed to shift with purpose. My skin prickled when the fireplace waned into utter blackness despite still having embers. I checked for drafts or an open window, but they were closed tight as always. My parents exchanged worried looks during dinner. Even laughter seemed strained. They spoke of neighbors' gossip about recent break that ends in the neighborhood, but this presence felt different, a silent observer that moved unseen. Heart pounding, I clutched my flashlight and crept to the back door. Outside, an inky darkness beckoned. The beam illuminated nothing. Turning to enter, a figure at the corner of my vision made me freeze. It was just Sarah, dressed all in black under the moonlight. A prank? She shook her head. I didn't do it, before hurrying away with that strange, fleeting smile. The following evening brought another incident. Books on the shelf were arranged in reverse order. An unsettling message scrawled across a page read, "Your secrets are not safe." It was then I noticed Sarah's car parked outside. We met at her house, exchanging theories and growing fear as each shared our experiences. She spoke of a strange man in black who would appear around town. His visits were fleeting yet unmissable, a figure never more than an arm's length away, always facing away from direct eye contact. It was then I realized the unmistakable scent, the same from that first night at home, clung to her clothes and skin. Sarah mentioned a local bookstore owner who had recently vanished, his shop looted. My parents were tight-lipped when I brought it up. As night fell, I huddled in bed with my flashlight, the beam flickering wildly as an icy wind slapped at the window. I could have sworn I saw him out there, eyes glowing through the glass like embers of a dying fire. In the morning light, Sarah's car was gone, but so were her books and personal items. A silent break.in. In her empty room, only her journals remained, each entry filled with unsettling sketches of shadowy figures. A message on one page read, "You are mine now." I glanced up at the window. In that fleeting moment, a face stared back, familiar yet unrecognizable, eyes glowing like embers before vanishing into darkness. Sarah was missing, or worse, taken by the silent visitor, and I knew it wasn't just my overactive imagination anymore. Chapter 3. The Final Encounter. With every passing day, the sensation intensified. The feeling of being watched turned to tangible presences brushing against me when alone in the house or outside. That night, I cornered Mom and Dad at dinner with questions about the man from Sarah's room and the missing texts. Their faces fell. A secret hung between us like an unspoken truth. "Please," was all my mother could manage before fleeing to the kitchen for a moment of respite. Dad's trembling hand placed a book on the table, Sarah's journal. I hesitated, opening it. Each page held more disturbing sketches. The final entry screamed out at me from under a yellowed photograph, a picture taken during my high school graduation day. Sarah was nowhere in sight, but her face looked different, the same eerie glow that had haunted the window. Panic propelled me through town until I stumbled upon the bookstore's door cracked open, dust dancing inside. The scent I'd grown to dread enveloped me as I entered, a musty blend of aged leather and smoke. In the back room, a man in black clothes slouched amidst stacks, face obscured by a hood. When he sensed my presence, he rose, revealing Sarah, her eyes those unearthly embers from before. A whispered weight spun her around like an iron cage. I fled to the car, but in reverse, found myself back inside and facing him. A stranger in black, no features visible except those hypnotizing orbs. They burned with a malevolent light as he beckoned me forward. "Who are you?" My voice barely broke my lips. He drew closer still until I was surrounded by an oppressive aura that seemed to swallow us all. Darkness given form. He whispered a single phrase, "Your secrets will be safe here." Sarah joined him, her face transformed into the haunting image from the book. With no other option, I followed them both into town's abandoned library, a place long thought haunted. Amidst musty air and towering shelves, they vanished, leaving behind the journal where I first faced it all. The word "wait" hung as an epitaph within. We'd been led deeper into a nightmare. Sarah's voice whispered in my mind, words seared like fire. "Your secrets are safe here." In that moment of clarity, she was never mine to save. She'd made her choice the night I found that note. A new secret bound us together, a truth so dark it eclipsed light. In the dead of night, under an overcast sky reminiscent of our youthful escapades, we waited atop a hill, a forgotten spot where legends whispered about such entities. And then came the first sign: eyes, a hood's edge peeking out from a tree line as the wind carried that familiar scent on its breaths, the stench of decayed knowledge and old leather. The man in black removed his hood. Sarah was gone, transformed into an ember that eyed specter. I remained, drawn back by my curiosity, a captive to the very shadows we sought to escape. Now an apprentice to darkness, it seemed the only truth. My deepest secrets awaited their revelation at the heart of that old library. As I read through those cryptic pages, Sarah's voice returned. "Run." The door slammed shut. The room was now a labyrinth, pulsing with hidden truths. It became clear. Some secrets were never meant to be shared under moonlight or candlelight, but in those places where nightmares came alive, when darkness spoke with its own voice and devoured light. Sarah's fate would serve as mine if I didn't heed the call within these ancient texts. The book fell to my hands, revealing Sarah bound by shadowy tendrils, a single page remaining, her final message: wait. With an ember that like gaze, our eyes met in that eerie light. The man in black returned and beckoned me closer. My fate was sealed as I descended into the hollow abyss of the unknown. A silent visitor claimed his latest apprentice, another truth awaiting on those shelves where legends roamed free, emblematic of the terrors we'd unwittingly disturbed. In this new world, time moved differently, a symphony of echoes, whispers, and shadows. As the last light faded, I realized Sarah had left behind a final message: "Your secrets are safe here." In that moment, our connection became inescapable, a bond forged by darkness that birthed an ember that eyed specter from human hearts, bound to keep their secrets. The man's had fell away, revealing his true face. Eyes like molten coals, a smile twisted by both fear and fascination with the secrets I'd carried my whole life. The wind howled outside as the door slammed shut behind me, a book now an eternal prison. Sarah wasn't gone. She was waiting to join the shadows, drawn in and silent. Just as I would be, Another ember for the abyss of knowledge hungering for more victims to bind themselves. In time, I'd become the keeper of our kind's history, a guardian and a keeper of secrets in a place where darkness was life itself. As moonlight waned, an eerie glow emanated from those pages. Sarah's last message echoed with each beat of my heart. It seemed the visitor had never been alone. In that flickering light, I embraced the shadows, knowing I'd be another shadow among others waiting, bound to a world where secrets were currency and true stories roamed free. The wind howled once more, a call for me to answer their hunger. When you wait with open eyes by candlelight, there's always more than just darkness. There are tales yet unbound in books that crave an apprentice. Your secrets become theirs when you take up the mantle of a guardian, the ember that died among us.